In disc golf, does footwork really matter? Yes. Of course, footwork matters in disc golf, but I hadn't thought much about my footwork until I took a lesson a couple of weeks ago from a guy named Adam at the Natty Disc Golf. Now, he watched me throw for a while, and the first thing he picked out was where I was putting my feet, how I was approaching the pad, where I was putting my plant foot. So yes, footwork is very important. And once I started working on my footwork, I noticed my game started to change. I was being more accurate with the disc. I was getting further distance. It really improved my game. So the very first part of the footwork that he talked about was how I was planting my front foot. Now I'm a right-handed, back-handed thrower, so it would be where my right foot is. I knew I needed to get my front foot out a little bit from my body, but I wasn't going far enough. All right, when I would put it short, I just wasn't getting good, clean release and good rotation either with my body. So he said, get that foot out a little bit more, have a wider extension there. And the reason that is so important is because when you're coming around with your hips and the core of your body, it's a more of a natural rotation, or it's easier to rotate with your hips than your core. Now, when you got that wider stance and that plant foot further out there, and you're coming through with your disc and you're putting your hips and your core, spinning it through, he said, make sure you spin on your heel. That brings you forward a little bit with the disc. Now, I will a lot of times try to spin on my toe or just kind of spin on my foot. And most of the time I was catching. I really wasn't getting around. What happens when you don't get all the way around? Well, the disc just kind of goes out and fades. So I've been working, and it's still a tricky thing for me to spin on my heel, but the wider I go out, the easier it is to spin on my heel. Now, if you see, when you spin on your heel, you can get your follow through to come through even better. Why? Because you got that wider stance and you can follow through. So he told me to start in the back right corner of the tee pad. So let's imagine that I am on the tee pad and I'm in that back right corner. And if you are a left-handed backhanded thrower, you're going to be in the opposite corner. And he said, start with your left foot. Obviously, if you're left-handed, you're going to start with your right foot. But start with your left foot, then go into that three-step, get that wide extension on the plant foot, and then come through. That part right there, just adding that step, having that better lineup on the pad made a world of difference in my throwing. Just getting that extra step, boom, coming through. Now, something else I learned, not from him, but from Latitude 64, is if you're throwing an understable disc and you're a right-handed thrower, go in the right corner. If you're throwing an overstable disc, go more towards the left corner. Now, he told me when you're doing your run-up to take it slow. Now, when you watch the pros, a lot of times they're almost running when they do their run-up, right? But he said, take it slow and then increase your speed as you go through. And that's something I'm trying to do more and more, is increasing that speed, especially with my hips and my core, to get further distance. But I'm not going to rush myself going through it. All right, the last tip he gave me was to focus on one thing at a time. When you're learning how to throw, or you're trying to improve your game or improve your throw, you can get overwhelmed with all the different parts and steps to how you need to throw. So make sure you focus on one thing at a time, and that's what I've been doing, focusing on my footwork and focusing on one part of my footwork at a time. Starting off with where I'm planting my foot, getting that extension, a wide enough stance, then getting my hips through, and then getting that follow through all the way. I mean, there's a lot of things to think about, so focus on one thing at a time and get better with it. Since that lesson a couple of weeks ago, I've been working on my footwork. I've been going out on the course and working on it. I've been out in the field throwing and working on it. And it's something that's going to take time before it gets more natural and I feel more comfortable and I can get even more power, or I can get better accuracy and my footwork will improve to help me in my game. So it's going to take you time. You just got to get out there and do the work. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to leave a comment about how your footwork has been improving or what you've been doing to improve your footwork, or maybe you have another tip you can share with us, go ahead and leave that comment. Also like to ask you to like and subscribe. Make sure you click that bell so you can get more notifications of our videos. And the last thing I have to say is go, man, go. Get out and throw.